What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the One More Rep podcast. I'm your host. My name is Joseph Percher. With me, as always, Austin Brown. Before we get going, guys, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the video, leave us a comment, share it with a friend, ring the bell so you're notified when the channel posts new videos. Besides the podcast, I'm doing weekly prep updates, so go ahead and check those out. 18-week out vlog is up and ready to go. This coming week will be 17 weeks out on the vlog. So if you haven't checked those out, some good information there. I usually include some training. I'll usually include like a prep or physique update. And then usually I'm doing my own kind of little Q&A segment as well. So if you like the podcast, it's a pretty similar style of content, just specific to me. With that, we got some good questions. Austin, what's up, man? What's going on?
What's up, brother? I need to get caught up on your YouTubes. I've been doing less cardio, so I've been
Makes sense.
my YouTube viewership time has went down.
Too busy getting huge.
Yeah, that and just busy in general. So I'm like, well, something's got to go today, or I'll. It's been nicer out, so I'll take the dog for a few miles and get.
Oh, yeah.
Right now being 260 cardio, walking gets the
That'll
heart
do
rate.
the trick. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
We took a
Especially
nice
you got
one
a good dog with you, like a good sized
Yeah.
dog like you do that's down to go on a 3 mile walk. Like you're gonna be in the 130s and the 140s heart rate wise. So you're good.
Yeah, we got some good hills around here, so it's nice. It's funny.
Nice.
He'll start looking at me at about the 2 mile mark.
Turning every couple steps, like how much further are we doing this?
I'm walking him the last couple.
Yeah,
the last
that's
little
awesome.
bit. But no, I need to, man. Things going well, yeah.
Yeah, everything's good. Your birthday today, by the way. So shout out
Oh,
to
yeah.
you. Happy birthday. How old
Thanks.
do you want to say on air? I didn't ask you off
Yeah,
air.
31 today.
31. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
So I got you. That's what you said on my dinosaur.
No, we're pretty close in age.
We are close.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, everything's good here. Weather's good. Weather's almost too hot to where now I have to time my like dedicated walking. I do one first thing in the morning before it gets too hot, and then I will do one after my last meal after the sun already goes down, because during the day I'm just trying to be outside as little as possible, to be honest.
Man, those times in Florida, that like very early walk, that's some of the best weather.
The best, dude. It almost feels like the fall feels in the Northeast a
Yes.
little bit in the morning.
Yeah.
Like I've noticed it's still
humidity.
early in the year, in August, it probably doesn't feel like that, in the morning either. But no, you're right. Like early morning before the sun is really up and ripping is fantastic. And once the sun is down and solidified down like 8:30, 9 o'clock, I'll eat that last meal and go for a walk. And I'm like, man, like this is incredible. Like the weather is just like perfect shorts, t-shirt weather. I'm out in my, Crocs, and there's, palm trees on every corner. It's like just the coolest thing, man.
How healthy would you say that is? Because I've found that when I'm walking consistently and it's feel good weather like that I'm a totally different human being.
Dude, my mental has been so much better the last, I don't know, almost year. I've been down here like 10 months. Like I didn't realize how much the weather used to play on my moods and just my day to day, like what my baseline was being in the Northeast. And then being down here, and it's like we had maybe 2 weeks that it was like, chilly in the morning, like chilly after the sun went down, but during the day, like 60s. But outside of that, it's like vacation weather all the time. And it's made me so much of a different person. I feel like I'm way more laid back, and my general like baseline level of happiness is like never really below a 7, I would say.
I mean, I can believe it, man. It's really important. Like I suggest everyone like get out when you can, get outside and walk for 15 minutes. Like just
Even what you said though, like, you being in kind of a colder climate, now that things are starting to turn and like spring is starting to come out, man, it's like I can remember being back home, and it would, you'd have that day that it was 60 and sunny after a long winter, and you feel like you're on party drugs or something. You're like, wow, this is fucking incredible, And
that was my birthday gift to myself today. It was pretty
yeah,
out. I didn't have the time
nice.
for it, but I took a long walk. I was like, this
Good.
is yeah, man. You're right. It makes you feel like you're floating, man. It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. That you got the company of a good dog, which is always awesome. You know what I mean? Things at home are good for you. So, man, that's
Yeah.
awesome. It's as you get older too, not to sound like I'm, some 75-year-old man reminiscing, but you become more appreciative of like the little thing. You realize how much value the little things, just like a nice simple day like that out in the sun with your dog. Things are good at home. You know what I mean? You get to make your own schedule. You have a bunch of clients that trust you and rely on you. Like things are good. So that's good to
Yeah.
hear.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. But you're so right about like prepping, and that was something else. I was like, because your baseline in prep is lower. Yeah. You're,
Way lower.
especially, you're just kind of in kind of a mood anyway. And then add that on. And I was like, ooh, this is so tough, man. This is rough.
I
But
would try to lean into it. It seemed like I always was in prep during the winter, and like I
yeah,
did a lot of spring shows, because it almost the like your mood trajectory and everything, and like how you're looking and feeling almost kind of follows the weather. Where it's like,
yeah,
you're at your worst, or maybe not looking the best and not mentally the best, like when it's peak winter, it's December, it's early
yeah,
January, whatever. But then like as the weather starts to turn, you start looking really good, and then because of that you start to feel good because the weather's good and stuff. And I used to try to, I just would always try to channel like the Dorian Yates quote where he was like, all those guys are out in California in their Ferraris, and I'm here trudging through the snow. Like I would listen to that over and over and over again so
yeah,
many times, and try to use that as fuel. But
yeah.
it's much easier to get up and get yourself rolling for the whole process here than it ever was back there.
Yes, dude. That I swear. But now I'm ready. I got one under my belt. So
Yeah. Oh yeah. Um, so we got questions. I wanted to talk specifically, I wanted to talk training this week, just kind of
yeah,
put like more of a specific general direction so that we're not so all over the place, which isn't a bad thing, but this time it's just a little something different. And the people rose to the challenge. I appreciate everybody that wrote in questions.
yes.
Starting off, we had somebody, I thought this was a good question and it'll get us talking. So this guy asked, how do you feel about your clients ditching the logbook altogether?
Okay, so I would say for 9.5 out of 10 people, this would be a really bad idea.
Yes.
Um, this would take for someone to truly do this and have good success or equal success, as utilizing more progressive overload approach. I would say it has to be like an extremely advanced person, or the opposite of that. Like literally just
True.
walking the gym. If you want to, your first 6 months in the gym, use it to say, I'm going to never really track a load. Say, I'm going to choose a weight to do as many as I can between 10 and 20 reps. You can guess that pretty easily. I'm going to do as many as I can. Should be the rule. But then, 6 months in, you might want to fine tune that a little bit and start tracking which load you got for how many reps. And then, at that point, you're kind of want to look at recovery and things like that, and not just say, am I recovered or not? Like, give me some data that supports, am I recovering properly or not? And then, then you fast forward to, like I said, a highly advanced individual. I feel like I'm actually, I kind of like the question because I'm doing that right now. I'm
Okay.
not my training for the first time in a number of years, and I'm loosely remembering the amount of load I used on main movements and things. But I'm not even counting reps. Um, I'm doing at least 8 reps, and I keep probably between 8 and 16, and I'm training to failure. And I just wanted the break from that, and I knew the recovery was there. I'm being very intuitive with the recovery, and I'm at a point where I can do that as well, which has taken a decade to have that, feedback established. But for, like I said, most people, like, if I don't know who you are, but if you're asked the question, you should probably be utilizing some progressive overload principles, just to ensure you are moving in the right direction. But I'll say there's caveats to it too. Like, and I have to have this conversation with, I would say, every client at some point. And it's, hey, you need to audit your execution within this progressive overload scheme, because how many times I know you've been here too, we all inevitably start shifting towards moving away at some point to beat that logbook. Whenever your execution week 8 and your execution week 1 should be absolutely identical. And 9 times out of 10, when I have someone audit that execution, they go, "Ooh, like I'm
Time to
wrecked.
reset this.
Yeah, I dropped load 20% this week and I'm destroyed because I revisited my execution. I was nailing pauses and end ranges. I was milking my eccentrics. And yeah, so I would say that's the caveat, but most people need to do some form of tracking of at least main driver movements, if not all movements, I would say.
On that last point, even doing that, because you had 6, 8, 10 straight weeks where it was like raw performance had to go up, and then you have that like almost reset week where it's like now it's just less raw load. I
Yes.
still view that as a week of progress, because like you said, that person's going to be like fried muscularly, but also
Yes.
it's almost like that is a step in the progression, is to get back to tighter form or better form, whatever that means for whatever movement that is.
Yes.
But I'm
There's
with you. So you cut through like the semantics part of the
yes.
question, like meaning that was going to be part of one of my answers, is like ditching the logbook. I was going to say, like, if you want to ditch a physical logbook or actually writing it down, that's fine. But you need to continue to do progressive overload if you need to, like, if you expect to continuously make progress. You kind of cut through that and just went straight to like, here is this example of using progressive overload. I would say this is in general, like if you're talking about just winging your training, I would say in general, there's 3 scenarios that I can think of, part of what you just mentioned, where outside of that, this is a terrible idea for someone striving to continuously improve their physique, and so much so to the point that they are progressing and improving on a stage look year over year. I think, like you said, being totally new in the gym, awesome example. I didn't even think about that before you said that. I think being new to drugs, you could probably get away with this for like 3 to 6 months. It's not, you're going to limit how you progress, but you can get away with it. And then the other one is if you're Phil Heath, which
Yes.
nobody listening to this is Phil Heath. So,
You see plenty of the big guys, they're not you watch Martin, he's training at 60 gyms within the span of a year. He's not keeping track of loads. He's picking a weight that he knows is going to be challenging, and he's taking it to hell and back.
Yes, which I think that is probably the biggest part, is training like
A fucking madman.
right to fail, right, in layman's terms, just training your ass off like a crazy person. That will ensure that you're going to progress. But in general, like, I'm with you. The compromise that I've had people that ask this, or they're burnt out on it, like it sounds like you are. I like the idea of tracking, and I've even been there. I like the idea of tracking like some main movers, and then arms, rear delts, side delts. Like, if you're going to keep a general set count and go in and just like hammer 5 sets, and this time it was with 70 pounds on the stack, the next time it might be with 90. Shoulder joint bothers you next week, maybe it's 50 pounds on the stack. All of them are going to go to failure. I'm fine with that. But in general, I think for most people, like if I'm talking about my clients and my reputation is on the line, that they are a better bodybuilder this year than they were last year, you better be tracking your progress.
Absolutely. And yeah, it's not so much, it's not so much I'm burnout on it. It was, I had the sickness and stuff, and I kind of like had a session or two where I was like, I don't need to track this. I'm going to go in there and lose some weight.
Yeah.
And that like continued a little bit. And now like I know I'm getting,
you're probably having fun with it. You're probably having fun with it.
It's a good time, man. But and I will say, I think one more point that's important to make is like, I think unfortunately a lot of people struggle with like truly understanding how to push themselves to the depths we're talking about when we're talking about training hard. And this is a way to ensure that you are challenging yourself to some degree, which A lot of you guys, like a lot of people need that. They need something to chase after in order to be intense. If they're at 15 and their goal is to get 19, it's getting hard at 15. They've had a bad day. Maybe they are like, "Oh, that's failure." It's like, no, last week you got 3 more reps and you're eating more this week and you're just being a pussy. So, um,
That and I just think it's like just the most surefire way to guarantee progress because even if it's not like all out failure, like the idea that last week I did 16 and maybe if I truly pushed it, that meant that this week, like I could go to 21 and get failure. Even if I go to 19, like that's progress. I think that that creates a stimulus that you would be better than last week. So
yeah,
it's almost like a guaranteed progression. Like if you are
yeah.
progressing in the gym, your physique is gonna progress.
And if you're on top of everything the way you should be, this is going to be one of your main drivers to gauge where fatigue is and where recoverability is, both
Yeah.
going in an upward direction. If all variables are keyed in, you're insulin sensitive, your composition looks good, but you're eating in a nice surplus, drugs are high, and you're losing a rep or two, or you're equaling a rep or two, and you're 6 weeks into this push or something, like you should be seeing like pretty exponential progress if the knobs are dialed where they need to be. And then the opposite of that in prep, you shouldn't be seeing exponential drop offs.
Yeah.
It should be pretty
Gradual.
tidy until,
Mhm.
right there at the end, I'll say you do need to get to a point where you're feeling like you're going to go in there and give it all you got that day. And it's not going to be pretty, but I'm talking like that's when you're like dug out.
So
Nasty.
I was gonna say that I forgot that I wanted to comment on this. You nailed it and got to it first. In contest prep, it's a different story. I would say, and it just is different for each person, and it's less about how many weeks out you are versus how far removed from what's normal for you in terms of body fat. So
Mhm.
like that might happen at 8 or 6 weeks out. I can remember being like very heavy for an entire off season, and then it took like a crazy push from 24 to 8 weeks out just to get within striking distance. And then by that point at 8 weeks out, it was like the logbook is out. Like I'm just trying my best every day in the
I
gym.
have a number of sets I'm going to hit, and I'm going to do my best.
Right.
I'm going to do my
Right.
best.
And I'm not going to get injured. So if it means like I have to take a little bit off to get a really good set of 8 here, like, well, then so be it. That doesn't mean train like a wuss, but it's inevitable. Like I think, especially if you're like a, competitive male that's getting into like stage worthy conditioning, like it's going to happen at some point.
Yep.
That might be 4 weeks out if you managed it awesome. It might be 8 weeks out if things were, had to be aggressive from the jump.
Yeah.
That's a perfect scenario where, like you said, you're just going to go in and do your best. I think have an idea of the structure of your training, have an idea of like total sets and what you think you can recover from. At that point, I'm certainly not doing any intensifiers. If I can't even recover from what my usual training loads are, I'm certainly not doing any intensifiers like drop sets or rest pause or anything like this. But in the off season, in general, like uh, you made such an excellent point. I am like I consistently feel like I can't relate to people when I do a question box like this, or I get messages on Instagram. Even occasionally, I'll get a message from a client. Like, again, the context is off season, drugs are in, food's in, whatever. People will be like, "What do you do when you have a bad workout?" I'm like, I just can't relate.
I
I
feel
will
like
have progressive upswing of training every session of every week for 16 weeks in a row in the off season.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And if you're feeling, if that stagnation does occur and your joints are hurting and blah blah blah, it's like you probably need to revisit your execution within movements. And are you doing fucking German volume training? Is your shit
Right.
just way too high? It's
Are you
like,
doing a rest pause on every set? Are you doing fucking hard sets of 6 instead of, a load that's manageable for a set of 12? Like there's no that's one thing I see now all the time is everyone wants to like limit fatigue and do sets of 4 and sets of 6 and it's like do you want to
fatigue.
be doing this 10 years from now? Do you think that your joints are going to be healthy 10 years from now doing sets of 4 on everything, single joint exercises, sets of 4? You fail at 4?
Well, I mean, it's an inverse scale. uh,
Yes.
risk of injury goes up if rep count goes down with it, whatever movement I'm talking about. So,
The thing is, though, it's like it drives me nuts because this, like you said, the risk of injury is high. The risk of reducing your longevity is higher, and it's all for the same benefit. I could see if they said, hey, if you can fail with loads that are so heavy that you are failing around 4 or 5, there's this extra 10% of growth or stimulus that you're going to get. Well, then it's like it's worth it to send it, especially every, if it's calculated and it's every now and again. If you're going to tell me I can get the exact same stimulus from getting to failure with a set of 12 that I can from getting to failure with a set of 4, it just blows my mind that people choose the latter.
oh, I would make this argument. If that's their argument, you can get the best of both worlds. You can do a set with a double rest pause at 20 seconds, and those next 2 sets are probably going to be your 4 to 5 reps sets that every rep is a productive rep in close proximity to failure. And, you could do that. Yeah. Or you could do a drop set and only drop it 20%, 4 to 5 reps there. Now you reduce the risk of injury. You're pre-fatigued and you're getting 4 to 5 stimulating reps for, say, 2 sets in that example. And you also had 4 to 5 stimulating reps from the first part of the set. Move on to the next movement.
Yeah. That's a great, no, it's a great point. We got into the weeds a little bit on that. I think we covered the idea of the log book. You know what I mean? No, it's all related, but we did get a lot of questions, so I want to get to them. But I think that covers it for the log book. In general, you want to be having an idea of how, like in general, you want a big picture idea of how can I squeak out these small percentage wins every week, just to assure that your physique is going to progress.
Yes.
Shortened work before lengthened work. Why or why not? The pros and cons to each in terms of programming.
So we're thinking a little too in depth with this question. The shortened range is going to be a stronger range. Whether I believe you should work a lot of movements, a lot of body parts in movement patterns that challenge or bias both of those ranges to some capacity. Which one you do first isn't going to be hugely significant in the grand scheme of things. But in an example of legs or something, I would definitely work the shorten range because your lengthen range, like a squat pattern, is going to be a lot more high risk and things like that. So if you can pre-fatigue it and exhaust, a shortened hamstring isolated movement and adductors and leg extension, and then go into that big driver, now you're going to be in a position where a lot of people worry about losing strength here, but because you're almost warmed up in those muscle groups, but not in the part of the muscle that's going to be extremely challenged within that big driver. So in that example, I would argue, programming the short range before the lengthen range, but something like a bicep or even a shoulder press or something like that. I wouldn't say it really matters. Chest is another one where I would flip that a bit, and I'd prefer to challenge like the lengthen range more with a fly pattern before I get into a press, because I do feel like the risk of injury is reduced nicely. And for me, I find that warms me up really well. But yeah, I think we're just thinking into that a little bit too much, but you might have a completely different viewpoint on it.
I'm somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
I think everything you said is valid. I also understand why the guy asked the question. Yes. I appreciate that he sent a question in at all, because I think it's a good topic. But there are people that really put a lot of thought into their programming and their principles. And I understand why. I am guilty of this myself when it comes, especially to my own training. I will sit and way overanalyze my own training and consider these exact parameters. Like, okay, well, this is shortened, so I got to get this in first. And then I know I can handle bigger loads with the length in later. Here's the thing. I think there's a couple examples where it generally is going to be a good thing. Like, I think if you've had some type of injury or the big compound lengthened movement is adding to your risk injury if you're cold, like you mentioned, I think those are two examples where you can do like a smaller, shortened movement first to get some blood into the muscle to feel what it feels like to squeeze that muscle with a very, very low risk of injury first before moving into the big one. So for me, I would actually use the example of doing like extensions before a hack squat or a leg press. Love that. I've always advocated for that. And then on the flip side of it, you mentioned chest being you said it was the opposite, but it's similar to the way that I think about it. I've had pec injuries, right? So I'm not just jumping into an incline dumbbell press because something's going to tear. So a lot of times what I do is the same thing that you mentioned, but I will do like a cable fly, but intentionally stand so that it's loaded in the short end. Because back here, if I'm stretched, I feel vulnerable. That's why I'm not doing the press first.
And how many movements can you challenge both ranges, right? I mean, lateral ranges, how you do it. Yeah. Fly like you do it. So it's like, you know, we could kind of go down so many roads here. You know, find what, like we just mentioned, things that intuitively feel healthy for us that are productive.
Right.
Figure that out. And then,
and it might be different for the guy that asked.
It might be, yeah. So, you know, figure that out with your training. You probably have a good idea of that already. And then worry about the big things that are holding that house up and not, you know, this is a very small, you know, detail, but I do understand the thought process. And when you're, especially if you're new to this and you're learning this verbiage and it's like, oh, is this really important? You know, I wouldn't put as much stock into this when it comes to your program design.
Now that I think about the examples of when I do this, it is like almost completely surrounded by like limiting injury risk or like trying to limit total load on like a big ass lengthened movement. You know what I mean? Like I can think if I'm going in and I have like a more hamstring glute dominant day, I definitely want to do some type of like single joint, like leg curl before I go do RDLs. I just feel safer doing that. I feel better when my hamstrings have some blood in them and things have moved around a little bit before I start going and bending over with some heavy ass weight, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. So you could spend an enormous amount of time warming up where you could, you know, do that single joint movement first.
Yeah. That, and like I mentioned, I think the number one example for me, and it's not even injury based, but I have always loved to do extensions first for quads.
Yeah.
And a part of that is just limit, like it's like, oh, I'm gonna be less strong. It's like I never got in this to be strong. You need to be stronger over the weeks and things need to trend up, but I don't need raw strength. I don't need, like, it's not like my quads are never going to grow until I reach 12 plates a side on the hack squat. That's not the case. So to me, it was always like, if I went in and did extensions first, one, it's really the only exercise that challenges the quads in a shortened position. Like you think about everything else, if you just stand upright and your knees locked out, you're at rest of a squat, of a leg press, you're at rest with it locked out. So like that rec fem down the middle of your quad, that's really the only time that it's challenged, shortened. Yeah. Yeah. And then it's like, okay, I have an awesome leg pump and now I'll go to a hack squat. And because my legs are blown up already, like I get a crazy connection from leg extensions. Legs are blown up from a couple sets. Instead of having to go over and put 10 plates aside on a hack squat, I put 6 on it and I'm going to fail at 12.
Yeah. And now you got equal stimulus with less fatigue and lower risk of injury.
Less wear and tear on my joints. I'm able to do this at 33. Hopefully I'm able to do it at 43.
Yep. Your body doesn't know 10 plates or 6 plates.
Nope.
and nobody asks you how much you hack squat whenever you win a show. So, maybe
Right.
some of this is losing the ego for
Hey, you
some
know
people.
what? We had you in the middle, but this guy over here on the end said that he does
Saw
12
him on
plates
it.
aside on the
We,
hack squat.
we saw him on Instagram a few weeks ago, repping the hacks.
Can you
Yeah.
guys talk about this? Is a cool question because I recently this might have been sprung because I talked about this recently, like we were talking about with upper back being more like grip and rip. This guy asked, "Can you guys talk about which exercises you like more for a grip and rip style versus being deliberate with a stretch and squeeze style?"
For me, it's just like I don't even see a huge difference between those two things. And let me explain. So I think all movements should have a controlled eccentric.
Yeah.
I think all movements should be extremely powerful in the concentric. Okay. So grip and rip tells me, I think that could be understood from some people as kind of rowdy,
Loose.
loose,
Yeah.
which a loose rep is usually a rep that doesn't have a really nice eccentric. Uh, which I feel like is very important. But I'll say this, like some movements, and especially if you haven't established a great connection with them, you need to establish like and understand the cues and the action of what that movement is doing. So the action of the muscle, the targeted musculature, and maybe what angle of the joint you are using. So in a row, if I'm trying to hit my lat, where should my arm be? Where should I be cueing
Where should
to?
my elbow finish? Yeah. Yeah.
Where's my elbow? Where should my shoulder? What should my shoulder joint do throughout the movement? And
Yep.
trust that, and execute with recycle those cues during the set and trust it. And maybe that is a little looser rep or something, or like you use the upper back row as an example. But yeah, it's hard for me to answer because I just feel like I like that. I like that tempo on everything is a slight pause in both end ranges, a slow eccentric, and move the weight as fast as you physically can move it through the concentric until your body is unable to do so. I
Until
hate,
it stops moving, even
I
with like a
guess,
full effort. Yeah.
yes, one of the absolute largest mistakes I see within training that I is a very difficult habit for people to break is creating a drag in the concentric. They make the concentric slower than what it could be. Okay. And you're losing out on so much from doing that, because the weight should move slowly when it physically has to move slowly. And so, saying that, like, rep one should be it should move, and then two should maybe be equal to a little bit less speed, and so on and so forth until failure is reached. And that I feel is like how you should execute pretty much every single movement. I don't know any movements where I would purposely change that.
I'm with you, and that's a great way to explain like how do you teach someone to train hard, or how would you explain what training to failure feels like? It's like, especially on a concentric, from rep one, it's an explosive full effort to move the weight as quickly as possible. And your proximity to failure is going to be what dictates how fast in reality it actually moves. So rep one might fly up, and rep 10, you might only get it halfway, and then you can't finish the rep. And then that's when you know when you're done. But it wasn't because you chose to stop halfway. It was because you pushed with everything you had, and that's just where the rep ended. Um, so that's a great way to put it. Yeah, I think, and I put these things on Instagram, and this is probably why, and I'm not saying that this is why you asked this, but it's
It's
a coincidence that I did just talk about this. So,
Mhm.
um, and it's exactly why I've had a podcast about bodybuilding for as long as I have, because it gives people a chance to hear someone's full thoughts instead of the thoughts that you get on a 10-second reel with a 15-second caption. Um, because now that I'm sitting here thinking about it and listening to you, and I'm like, man, the only exercises that I do that maybe I could describe, or someone like you could watch and describe as being loose, would probably just be the upper back work that I talked about. And you pointed out in that post that I made such a key point where it's like, trust the setup, get the setup correct, and then you kind of just let it rip, or send it. But
Yes.
it's because I was so thoughtful with the setup, it allows me to be a little loose. But being that I was so thoughtful with the setup, it's not like I was just letting it fly. There was actually quite a bit of thought that went into this, in like to allow me to just go let it out. So it's something like a chest supported row. Yeah, I'm getting a little rowdy. It's probably the most rowdy thing that I do, where it's like I'm still going to control it, but when I row that thing, like there might be a little body English that comes with it. An upper back pull down, same thing. But then I'm sitting here thinking, and I'm trying to come up with other examples, and I don't really know that I have one, because anything else for back, like if I'm training lats, it looks dramatically different. It looks super. The tempo is what you described. Always, I'm always trying to have like a semi pause in both ends. Like I want to basically start over in a full stretch, and then I want to own the squeeze, and then start do it in that tempo.
Yes.
Um, but it's gonna be like more deliberate and slow. Like my eccentrics are going to be overly slow on like a very stretchy, squeezy, accurate. Like I'm really trying to feel this one little part of my back. So I'm going to take my time and do it right. It's the example of, and I can't take credit for this. I might have got this from Tommy Styles, or one of the other guys that I know trains crazy hard. But the difference between grip and rip, at least in the example that I'm using, like upper back versus lats, is the example of using a scalpel versus using a sledgehammer. Lats, I'm using a scalpel. I'm going in with a fine little thing, and I'm trying to slice one little line in this very particular area. Upper back, man, I'm just trying to hammer the whole surface area. So,
Yeah, I think you nailed it on the head. I'm trying to hit one muscle at a time. With our upper back movements, we're hitting 10
or
muscles.
yeah, right,
You know,
right, right.
traps, rhomboids, upper lats,
Rear delts, yeah,
all of it. So
yeah,
you're not going to feel that hard contraction in one spot. And I think
yes,
that's what people, they're mentally like, well, I don't feel it. It's like, well, your setup's good, your arm angle's good, your tempo's good. You don't feel it because you're feeling 20 muscles back there instead of one
right,
pack in a pack deck, right?
right.
Trust the setup, keep your tempo tight, and move the fucking weight. I
I
think
would
that's
say it's the same thing for like, anything like compounds. Okay, like if you really wanted a difference, like your compound movements, yeah, maybe you need to be at an 8 or a 9 out of 10 in terms of like, being stimulated and ready to rock, versus some of your single arm movements. Like on extensions, yeah, my mentality, it's not super different, but it's going to take a little bit of more. It's going to take a little more oomph for me to squat 10 plates aside versus it is for me to, leg extension 45 pounds. Like it's a little different. That's really the only difference, but the setup is all the same. Like you said, I've had people that are like, I'll be like, how was the hack squat? And they're like, well, I don't feel it the same as a leg extension. And it's like, well, yes, you're training your entire lower body with this hack squat, and you're training 4 out of the 40 muscles in your lower body with the extension. It's just a different thing.
yes, yeah. Just so take footage, make sure your execution looks good, trust the setup, and then train it to failure hard, like we just described.
I
I
love
think
the
that
trust the setup. I love that as a point that you make time and again, because you know what? When you like, it all starts with a good setup. So if you were to film every exercise that you did over the course of a week, as long as you were thoughtful in your setup, all of them should look pretty similar on video. Like internally, when you're in there and doing it, yeah, it might feel like an upper back row is fucking compared to like a single arm cable row or something. But really, that's just like the setup allowed it. So if your setup is good, you can put that high effort even into like the smaller movements and just trust it, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah. I've never really thought about it that in depth, but that's the difference.
Yeah. 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 It's a good one.
Yeah. Good question.
Similar question. I know Gabe wanted us to get to this one. How do you teach, in quotes, how do you teach a client to train harder when they're sending you weekly vids? So he's talking about like online coaching. You're working with a remote client that you can't go see in person. You know, they're sending videos, and every week it feels like they got five in the tank. How do you teach them to train harder?
It's a tough one. I will try to, I dig into the mental with this a bit.
That's it.
Yeah. So, an example that I like to regurgitate is the Tom Platz ring the towel, right? So imagine your set is you wringing out a wet towel until that motherfucker is as dry as possible. That's how far I want you to take the set. I love that example. At the end of the day, some people will never understand this. I've come to understand as a coach, and this leads into another point. I won't get off on the tangent too much. Some people don't have that ability. They require more work in the gym to achieve said stimulus. There's guys I can give a single set to
Yeah,
and know they're going to
absolutely.
grow. And that the next guy I have to give 4 or 5 working sets to because I know he's not getting there. But I need him to achieve X amount of stimulus. But I think the last question was a great answer to this, and a lot of parts of it help answer this. Your reps should be identical. Have a reset point to every rep. Like we talked about, nail pause in that starting position, almost start every rep over, and then treat every rep with that same approach. And if you do that and you think about that approach we talked about and actually execute that, there's no way you're unable to train hard. That is truly taking it to as difficult as it can be. And then the variable that comes into play is your mind and your pain tolerance, and physically move the weight until you're unable to move it with that setup and that tempo that we described. And that's all you can do. But like I said, some people will never quite grasp this, and you, I guess, won't understand if that's you or not. So you'll have to be told that. But yeah, I guess that's my 2 cents on that one.
It took me many years maturing as someone that helped other people to finally just swallow the idea that
That
this will not be everybody. This
Yep.
is not going to be everybody.
Yep.
Because I think that I was probably in the earlier days, I could come off as pretty callous or rude when trying to teach this to people. And not that I'm Dorian Yates or Tom Platz, but I know what it is to go there and I know how to call on that. And in person, I have taught other people that. So I know what it means. And then so to not be able to convey that to someone remotely and see it result in a positive outcome, I think was frustrating for me early on. And then it would come out as like,
yeah,
almost like a frustration or a rudeness towards the client. And it took me some years to understand, like, you know what? Not everyone is going to get there. Like you said, I don't even necessarily, when I come to the point that I realize that this is not going to be this person, I don't even necessarily need to point it out or call it out. And my decisions just have to reflect that. Like you said, now they're someone that's going to do 24 sets in a session for one body part or something like that, where it's like you said, I had Kelsey's brother is one of my clients, and he trains like a fucking caged animal. And he was down here this weekend, and we had to redo all of his leg training because he's just not recovering at this point in prep with how much cardio he's doing, how low the food is. He can't recover even from like 2 sets of it per exercise. So I literally stripped everything down to he does 1 set per exercise for 5 exercises for a leg day. And that's it. And guess what? It's still more than enough for him to maintain what he has. And I guarantee you, if we were in a situation where he was in a surplus, he would grow from that because
That's exactly what I'm doing right now. And I did legs yesterday and I'm limping like a scarecrow today.
I guarantee you he would say the same thing today.
Yeah,
and it's just
got great legs.
there's just but it's the mentality though is first, like
That's
you
it.
said. And you can't teach that. Like, there are people that have it so extreme like him, where my job as a coach is to actually rein him back and make it all fit, make the puzzle put together so that he can recover. For most people, it's the other way around. And I have to say to them, I think you had 5 more, where, our answer earlier is basically the answer for this. It's full maximum explosive effort from rep number 1 until that full effort results in reps that get so slow that they're shaky and they stop.
They're not moving.
It doesn't move anymore.
Yeah.
I've heard, I'm not going to take credit for this. I heard on a podcast a long time ago, Matt Jansen in his, coaching heyday got asked this question. And he said, if he's really struggling to teach it to someone, if possible, he would meet up with them in person, but either way, either way, he said what he would do is he would have them basically do like a Wingate on a spin bike, where you sprint on like increased resistance until you literally cannot move the pedal anymore. Which I don't know if you've ever done those. They're brutal.
I haven't done. No, I lie. I did one in college for a study, and I felt dying.
It's insane, dude. I did them as like half of my. I basically did 2 types of cardio for a whole prep. I did like 3 days a week. I did the Wingates. 2 days a week, I did like steady state on the stairs, and it was actually awesome when I look back on it. But besides the point, his point was that would teach you what full explosive effort means when it results in actual failure, when that you are giving every internal output that you have and the pedal literally doesn't move, which you can teach that. You could get there on one of those resistance bikes with somebody. Now, whether or not they are able to carry that over into training, kind of when the pressure's on and, it's their set to do legs or something, is a whole nother thing. I think that's where mentality and pain tolerance come in. And like, as the kids might say now, whether or not they got that dog in them. No, it's true. Cause I talk about this a lot, just having pride in being one of those people. I try to convey that to clients when I have these kind of mentality conversations. And again, not that I'm anything special, but that was like, just without anyone telling me or teaching me, I can remember my earliest days of like wanting to be a bodybuilder and training hard. And, I'd go with 2 or 3 friends to the gym for a leg day. And my mentality going into that, especially because I was usually like the newer guy in the gym and these guys had been training for football or whatever the case was going into it was like, I'm going to break these guys. Like I will go until these guys quit. And when it gets difficult, that's when I'm going to turn it up to 11 and they're going to see what I'm about. And, I was like that with my original high school friends that I would train with. When I got to college, I lived in a house with, 8 guys at one point, and half of them played like Division I college football. And, they were all big and bad, played offensive line and thought they could squat and this, that, and the third. And then it was like, okay, you're going to come train legs with me and we're going to see. And that was just my mentality. That was, and it's not to sound cool or to look cool on Instagram or anything like that. That was just how I approached training, was that when it gets tough, I'm going to get even tougher. I'm going to push through this and lean into it is really like the verbiage that I use a lot. Like lean into it. Like, you know what? I'm going to seek out the pain. When it starts to get tough, I'm looking for more. I want more.
Dude, I love that you brought that up, because that is some like a talking point I will have with that type of client is once you feel the set is challenging, that's rep 1. Strap up and let me see what you're about now. Like that's when your set starts. Everything else is a prerequisite to that point, and then I want to see what you're made of. Like, show me what you can do, because that is what determines your progress. That part of every set. Um, so yeah, I love that. If you feel like you're someone who's struggling with this, and I will. You can trick yourself into training hard by the bike example is kind of a good one, but do a tri set.
Right.
You know, I promise if you have a goal of 12 on the third movement of that tri set, you're probably going to get to 4 and be like, fuck. And then those last reps, you probably actually will fail at 12. Like most people that don't understand failure, they can do a drop set and they'll accidentally fail. There's your failure. Like feel that hell on everything intentionally, though.
I heard something. This is years and years ago. I think I remember Rich Piana talking about this, and he was talking about training someone in person. But what he said was, it's like day one, he would put someone on there's like that Nautilus like single arm high preacher that you can do where it's like your arm just sits in this thing and you can just hinge at the or flex at the elbow. And he said he would put some nominal amount of weight on it, and he would literally not allow the person up out of the chair until they tried to move their arm and it didn't move anymore. He's like, I'm going to teach you what this feels like to fail with a full effort. And then once you're done, you can get out of the chair and then we'll move on.
It's great. It's a great way to do it.
Yeah. Especially with him 350 pounds in your face telling you that you can't get up yet,
I would like to ask some follow-up questions to his question to kind of see where his mind was going with it. But yeah, I think we covered it well.
Yeah. I mean, that's all you can really do. That's all we really have in terms of remote tools. It sounds, I almost feel like it sounds callous to say it's up to that person. But at some point, I can convey to you all of the resources that I do have, all of these examples or tricks or tools. But then at the end of the day, it just comes down to whether or not you want to push yourself to that point or through that point.
Yeah.
And that's really it.
Take pride in it.
Take pride in it. That's right. Be the person that, I so badly, especially I talk about, I can remember those college leg days when everybody in the house was gearing up and we're all just going to go train legs together. I can just remember a big thought in my mind was what, if there's 7 or 8 of us going and doing this. And if any one of them were in between their sets and looked over and saw what I was doing, or if any one random person on the gym floor, looked over at our group and had to pick out someone that was obviously training way harder than everyone else. I was I will be damned if I'm not that person. I am going to be that person that people look over at and they're like, fuck, this guy's a psychopath. What the fuck is this guy going through? I'm so serious. That was what that was what, a set would get challenging and I would play these tricks on myself. I'd be like, somebody's fucking watching. Somebody is watching you right now and they don't think you have it in you.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta the set before the set, right? Get your mind right.
Yeah. Yeah, it starts with the mind. This guy asked, do you believe single arm movements are the best for arm growth? I've talked quite a bit about this. I think that's probably why someone asked.
If I had to really pick or choose which one's better, I would say yes to the question. But there are things to consider.
100%. I think just logistically, how does this fit into your day?
I know, that for me, if you truly put high effort in unilateral movements, you should have to rest in between. Pisses me the fuck off when someone does one side and then does the other side immediately. You didn't go hard.
It's going to take time, dude, because now it's every arm it's you've doubled the number of sets that you're doing in the gym.
Yes. So that's of a huge consideration. And I do think that there should at least be a mix of it until you are rather advanced. And then we can find the nice middle ground and do single arm movements bilaterally.
Yes.
Right. So that's kind of where I tend to fall.
That's where I'm at right now, dude.
Yeah. So I think I like that's where I tend to kind of fall with my training. Yeah, I mean, if I had to pick, yes, but like, do you have that long to train and yada yada yada?
I would just say it depends because I know people that have grown huge, crazy, impressive arms by just doing like easy bar
Yeah,
curls and
yeah.
like
It's going to be
skull, like
marginal difference.
yes. So I think the big one then is like, do these movements mess up your elbows? Are you getting tendonitis? Things like that. Like for me, I looked up at a certain point and I had small arms and like injured elbows and forearms, and I was like, okay, I need to change the approach, you know.
Yeah,
But that might not be you. That might not be everybody. You know what I mean? Some guys just are able to grow cannons like pretty easily. So, um, but I'm with you. That's exactly where I'm at right now. Especially I'm doing upper lower, so my sessions are long, and then to get through it, and then it's like, okay, now I'm gonna do 4 sets of a single arm curl, which is really 8 sets. I'm like, dude, this is fucked. Like, I'm going to be here for another 40 minutes. So,
yeah,
my compromise has been like, I will do like a dual cable curl, whether it's high or low behind my back, where it's like each arm has its own individual cable and can move freely, but I'm doing them at the same time. Same thing with a tricep. Like I think about like we have like a free motion cable setup at the gym where you can
love
set it up and do like a cross cable. You know what I mean? So I think though that's a good compromise. And even if you're not super advanced and you want to try something that maybe is a little more custom to how your body moves, that is the compromise.
that. Yep, I would
Do you
agree.
train abs fasted with morning cardio or post training, and why?
It doesn't matter
It
because it doesn't matter.
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. If you're like pushing a ton of food and you feel like you're gonna get sick if you're training abs post training, like I guess, but probably should never get to that point. Um, yeah, do it whenever, do it hard.
I will give you 2 reasons why I do what I do. I do it in the morning because I have an ab machine here at the house
There you go.
along with a cardio machine here at the house. So I have my morning routine that I don't have to leave the house for. I do them together and then it's just done and over with.
And you just
Um,
mentioned your sessions are already
my
long.
sessions are very long, so then it's like I don't want to leave it to chance that I get to the end of that and then I say fuck it, I'm going home,
Yeah.
which sometimes I would probably want to do if that wasn't the case. So I just set a non-negotiable with myself that I do it in the morning with cardio, and then that is what it is. That works for me. I've seen people. I can remember Kai Green constantly doing abs before any of his sessions in the gym. If that's a compromise for you, it literally doesn't matter at all.
Doesn't matter.
How do you make training your least favorite or weakest body parts more enjoyable?
Those always are my more enjoyable body parts to train because I will see a picture of myself where they look like shit and I will want to make them look less like shit. So I will train the fuck out of
Uh,
it.
that's really the only answer, right?
I think that should be your motivation behind changing your perspective around it. To be honest, if it looks shit and it wants and you want to improve it, then you better learn to like how to train it, or at least make it your like you know I don't know, like hate fuck it,
Yeah.
like just get
It's
mad
a
at
little bit more of it's a little bit more of like a thinking man's challenge. Like,
it.
you know,
Thinking man,
I'm
psychology.
14 years of like bodybuilding training in. So some of these body parts for me, like it's like, man, I've thrown every piece of shit at this wall that I could possibly throw at it. Like it's going to take a little bit more thought to make this better. You know what I mean? Like, um, and then like you said, the idea that, you have, especially when you get down to like stage conditioning or stage weight, like that's when your weakest body parts are really exposed. And so the thought of that physique, but with an improved, X, Y, and Z body part, you start thinking like, man, that's going to look pretty fucking good because it's just this one thing that kind of sucks. Like, that's like a big motivation to where it's like, you've seen it. It's kind of rare, but you've seen it where people have turned a weakness or the weakest body part on their physique. All of a sudden, a couple years in, it's a strength on their physique now. It's super obvious. And I feel like, we're not necessarily doing it for this, but people in the bodybuilding community, if you've been around for a while, have a really high degree of respect and recognition when someone is able to do that. Like the community will notice. Like if you forever have shit arms and then you know what, finally you just show up one year after being off stage for a little bit and you have fucking cannon arms, everybody's going to notice. Everybody's going to comment on it. Everyone's going to want to know what the fuck you did to grow your arms.
Yeah. Yeah. So just like take pride in that progress. And
that's what I think about when I'm doing arms and it's like the end of a long session and then I still have arm work. I'm like, you know what? I'll be damned if fucking Steve Weinberger tells me I have shit arms again. It's been 5 years in a row, motherfucker. I'm coming with some arms this time, Steve.
Yeah, so like if you're a competitive bodybuilder, I think that's the way, right? If you're like a gym bro, like I guess fuck it, hate training it. Who cares?
Or skip it.
Skip it. Fuck it.
If you're a weekend warrior, dude, I'm never training legs when I'm done bodybuilding.
There you go.
I like training them now. I love training them now. It gets the juices flowing. I get nervous. I love getting crazy, big, veiny fucking quad pumps and shit. The day that I am done from competitive bodybuilding, bro, I am never training legs again.
I will probably do some like isolation.
I will ride a bike. And that's it.
Yeah, there you go.
Fuck that. I will be so done with it. And I will be so glad to be done with it. And I'm just going to train my arms and my chest. And I'm going to try to look like the most fucking unbalanced, jacked beach gym bro that you've ever seen.
Let's go.
Let's see here. Okay, let's do one more and then call it. The mistakes that people make or things that could be done better in the gym or with exercise sequencing / order. So I guess like biggest mistakes we see both in the gym and with programming.
Mistakes in general?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Not training hard enough is the biggest one I will see.
Yeah.
There needs to be a level of thought to the sequence of your movements, and we touched on a lot of that.
Yes.
Kind of the, injury prevention, proper warming up, things like that. So, biggest mistakes. I know you're gonna like rat off some really good ones here.
No, really.
Yeah, the biggest one I see, and I make this point like religiously, is about the training and efforts and how honestly 95%, maybe that's being generous, of the people I see in the gym train with a proper level of intensity. So that's the biggest one. With programming, I would say too much just shit volume. Okay. Sure up your trainings. Be more accurate. Be more fucking intentional. Like, stop just going in there and doing X amount of sets for X amount of reps because your program or your paper says so. Yeah. And like looking at it like I'm checking a fucking box, and like put some focus behind. Like I'm so dialed. Like I swear to God, you could shoot a 9mm next to my head during a set, and I would take the set to failure and then look over and see what the fuck happened.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm so dialed, dude. Like, people don't focus during their sets. It's just like I'm just doing it to like get it done. I see that a lot. So like put some intention behind your sets, put some intensity behind your sets. Those are the big ones. Programming wise, a lot of just, it's like I think a lot of people are training too much, like too much over volume. Like, and they're wearing knee wraps because their joints hurt, and they're wrapped up like a fucking, like an Eskimo.
Yeah.
fucking zombie over here to do a chest movement. It's like because everything's beat to shit. But then you watch
Right.
the set and it's like X amount of reps shy of failure. It's like, damn, dude,
Right.
what are we doing here? You know, so you can get a lot more out of your training, doing less. I
Yep.
think people need to do their homework on what should a good set look like, and do as many of those as you can. You're going to find that's a lot lower number
It's
than what
less. Yeah.
you're going to find that's probably about 30% of probably what you've been doing, and you're going to see better results.
Mine are pretty like novice, like you said, like especially now, like we go to a gym that's very competitor focused, both in terms of physique competition and powerlifting. So everyone is, I don't really see too many people that are training like dorks. You know what I mean? Like, but in general, I would say the focus one is the big one, and it's mostly, these are just mostly gen pop. I don't think even any people that are listening to this, that's probably them. But like I'm sure we've all seen, like I've seen people that are like mid set and they are like scrolling their phone, and I'm like
I saw
just
that
blown
yesterday.
away.
I
I'm
saw
like,
that
what?
yesterday. A
I'm
guy
like,
doing calves, and I just was like, I was like,
bro, I've seen people on leg press doing it. Like it's like I and you know what? Like I am just such the personality that I have to really bite my tongue. Like there's been so many times I want to go over and say, "Huh, that must have been a really good set. You're really focused on that." Like I just have to catch myself and say, "You know what? Fuck it. It doesn't matter. Let this person, let
suck.
him go. Yeah, let him suck." So that's one. I think training wise, you know, again, it's kind of a novice one. I think anyone that's listening to this probably already knows, but like following some type of standard like 3 by 10 or 3 by 12 and like arbitrarily stopping instead of training to some type of failure goal, like whether you're intentionally leaving one in the tank, or which should still look like a damn hard set, by the way. Um, but like just an arbitrary number. Oh, my program said to do 12. And it's like, well, you should have done 18. Like,
Your body
what,
doesn't understand
yeah,
that.
yes. Um, so again, kind of novice. I think in terms of programming, I think the big one is the most common one that I see, especially with like beginner to intermediate level people that are interested in bodybuilding and competitive bodybuilding or building like a stage physique, is having clear weak points on their physique because of the way that they've previously or always programmed, and then not adjusting that programming for it. And I was guilty of this, but I think in terms of like, you know, if you've been training for 5 or 6 years and you've always done upper lower or push pull legs or something like that, where they're like, you know, bigger sessions, and you've always just pushed arms to the end of the session and they're kind of an afterthought. And then 6 years in and two stage showings later, it's obvious to everyone that your arms suck. Something needs to change and you need to make arms a priority because they're not growing at the same rate as everything else. So,
Prioritization. Yeah, that's a great
yeah,
point. Really good point, man.
yeah. Or even something as simple like, you know, this was a big one for me. I felt like I struggled to build my shoulders for quite a long time, and I always did push pull legs or some variation of that for a long time, and then just moving my lateral raise variation to the very front of the session and started with that and put like that first exercise intention and effort into it was like a game changing thing for me. And it's so simple and it's so obvious now when I think back. But it was like revolutionary for me because I'm like, oh shit, this could be like a priority. And then everything I'm about to, the next three exercises that are all presses are completely unaffected by this. And I have bigger side delts now. Like, go
Yeah, I
figure.
love that. I love that point, man. It's like don't get stuck on what split do I have to follow. Like if you saw
Right.
some of my client splits, you'd be like, "What the fuck?" It's like three bicep movements and then a hamstring and a quad movement or something, you
Yeah.
know, and then
Yep.
forearms or something. It's like you don't like train like set your programming up to like the way you need to fix your
For
physique, right?
you, for your physique.
Yeah, and if
That's
you're
why I think it's
balanced,
so different. Sorry to cut you off, but I think it's
no, you're
so
good.
difficult, especially the further you go along. I think it's so difficult to be on a consistent schedule with like a training partner if you have two people that really care about developing their own physique, because
Yes.
your training should look completely different unless you find someone that completely mimics how you look in terms of like, this guy's got a big back, I've got a big back, he needs bigger side delts, I need bigger side delts. Like, unless there's some oddball chance that you find a bro in your gym that trains hard and happens to have the exact same weaknesses that you have, your training is going to should look completely different from everyone else's.
Excellent point, man. I've had so many clients like, can I train with so and so at my gym? Blah blah blah. And I'm like, well, you guys' physiques are completely different. And I'll just be like, sorry. Like, if your best interest is this pro card we're talking about, it's like,
Right.
no, it's just not most conducive to what we're trying to
Like,
accomplish.
one of you is going to suffer. Like, the guy that, like, you guys are going to train on one split. So if you guys train on one split that's conducive to guy A over here, his progress is going to skyrocket. And then guy B that's playing the second fiddle, he's not going to progress as well. That's why a lot of times, and I used to wonder about this when I was younger, and we really the only exposure that we had to the top guys was like, the Battle for the Olympia DVD or whatever it was. And it was like, I think of like Jay, like, never trained with a training partner, like another pro bodybuilder, but he'd have like a guy with a towel and a visor there, like spotting him or something. You know what I mean? And it was like, I used to be like, man, how weird is this? Like, why isn't he just like training with Kevin or something? You know what I mean? And then now I think about it, and that's really the only time that someone that has like big time aspirations, or is pretty advanced with their training and their physique, that's really the only time you ever see them with a consistent training partner, is if it's someone that like has basically just handed the reins over to them and doesn't really care about it themselves. They're just along for the ride.
Bumstead's a good example of that. Like, there's been a few of his preps where he's just had a guy that looks decent be his training partner for prep. That guy, you can tell, is just honored to be that role for those.
I'm gonna come play. I'm gonna come be the backup singer.
Yeah, and if I learn a couple things or improve a little bit about this body part or that body part, great. But like, I'm here to just help basically. And that, yeah, I love that point, man.
It's really the only consistent training partner that I ever had when I think about my like competitive adult bodybuilding was a guy that a very close friend of mine, and that was really the case. Now that I think about it, he was just showing up and following along. Like, I wrote it all out. It was all for me. I never thought twice about what he needed, and it was like I could change things fucking mid block, mid week, anything, any change that I felt was needed for me. I'd be like, hey, I know that we were doing upper lower, but starting tomorrow we're doing push pull legs, so I'll see you at 5 for push. And he'd be like, okay, I'll be there.
Yep, same here, man. Same here. And you can kind of finagle it, and somebody can do 3 sets on a movement, and if you only need one and stuff, but it gets convoluted. And if you're advanced, it really should be the way we're talking about. You'll have the rare instance where you have somebody symmetrical left to right and balanced top to bottom, and then the same next guy's the same, and you just need your feedbacks. Hey, get bigger everywhere, which that was kind of always my feedback. You can train with someone like that and have a pretty laid out.
You and I probably would have worked out, honestly.
Yeah. Like, our issue is we're too fucking small. So, it's like, get bigger and, do that every year. So, like,
maybe do a little bit less with the legs compared to everything else.
Probably so. We're probably a little bottom heavy, but yeah. So, great point to make there. This is completely less in depth, but another point that I thought of, if you're training back, wear fucking straps, because that pisses me off when I see someone advance not using straps. I'm like, yeah, your arms look fucking great and your lats are shit. So use these fucking $5 wrist straps. Drives me nuts.
That drives me fucking insane as well. Especially if it's a client. If I see a gym bro that's just got cannon forearms and he decides he wants to do his barbell rows without straps, you know what? Fine. Maybe I'll see him on stage one day and my back will be better than his. My clients, I'm like, you are a fucking idiot. What are you doing? You're going to tell me you don't think that the muscularity of your back should be stronger or like be able to move more than your forearms, dude? I don't care if you have like biblical grip strength. This should not even be close.
Nope. Yep. That's why I
Yeah.
fucking hate like mag grips and shit. Like, okay, they
Oh,
feel fine. They feel kind of good, sure.
not
It's a
really.
good squeeze. But like, you ever just wrap a fucking set of straps around a D handle
It's the
and get
best,
locked
dude.
the fuck in?
You
Like
feel so locked
that
in.
sounds
We
better.
have the
Fuck
my
that shit.
only complaint about the gym that I'm in. The gym is awesome. The gym owners are awesome. They're constantly putting money back into the gym, sourcing like the rarest, coolest shit for all of us to use. They have, and I would care about this less now because he just got the extreme row, which is the one that I prefer. But he's got the prime seated row, right? Like where you're seated upright and there's the three prongs.
And it has the fucking
He's
mag
got
type.
like the original mag handles on it. And I'm like, this is a wasted piece. Like you're wasting this $4,000 back piece
No,
right here.
we have that at my gym, and
It's a
it
waste. I can't
it's the
even use
most
it.
this is the most disheartening thing because I want to
It's
use it
disheartening.
so bad.
It's disheartening. And
Like,
especially because for a while that was like the go-to like chest supported piece that he had.
mm,
But I got to give him credit because he just sourced the Strive Extreme Row, actually. So the original. He's got a bunch of Strive stuff in the gym. And he just sourced the original Nebula Humbler, which like Arsenal bought the blueprint and like redid as like a chest supported row. But he's got the original, which that's the first time I've ever seen that. And I used it today, and it's fucking excellent. It's so much
that
more. It's so much more sturdy than the Arsenal version. Like it's so obviously created in a different era. Like this was created with like big time materials. It was created to last for the long haul. Like it's different than the shit today that's just made to look cool on the gym floor, but it breaks at any moment's notice.
Nebula's the shit, man. It's a top company for me. Their back
Yes.
pieces, their chest press. I posted
Their
their chest
leg
press
press is
today.
the original, the dude, the original leg press from Nebula, which again, like Arsenal redid, is the best. It's got like the multi-angled leg,
This
like
yes,
platform for your
yeah,
feet, dude, the best.
and they have a squat press too, and
Yep.
it's dude. And I posted their chest press on my story today, ironically, and I said this is the goat chest press.
Yeah.
Fucking
Yeah.
love it.
Awesome. Awesome company. It's awesome to be in a gym that has so many cool original. He's got like I said, a lot of like he chose the Strive stuff instead of the newer Prime version of it, which is awesome. Got a lot of old school Nautilus stuff, like the chain driven Nautilus pullover, single arm Nautilus pull down, a lot of awesome stuff. Cybex squat press, all good
That's
stuff. Shout out to Alvin.
that sounds like my gym, man. It's really similar, but
Yeah,
we did get a huge crop of panada in. It's
yeah. And what
solid.
do you think?
It's freaking solid as crap.
Okay, all right.
Love it.
I've
It's
tried a couple things, and I think a lot them like a lot of the newer brands. I feel like they're batting 60 or 70%. You know what I mean?
what did you not like?
I feel I've tried a handful. There was a gym back home that had quite a few of the chest presses, like different angles.
A lot of
Um,
different chest presses. They have like the extreme ones or
I
whatever.
feel like they are like very flimsy. I felt like
Flimsy.
could have been
Okay.
an old, could have been like an original. Maybe they've shored them up. Um, but like it was just it felt very like Life Fitness to me.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Like this is my first exposure to them. I'm a
What do they
fan,
got?
dude. It's like 20 pieces. They have like every
Oh,
single
okay. Oh,
thing.
fuck. Okay.
Um,
I've heard good thing about the leg and back stuff from Panada.
yep. The back the high row I like a lot, which is technically the low row, but I don't know why
Sure,
it's called
sure.
that. It
Yeah,
rows
yeah.
low to high, really good piece. The like their extreme squat type of
Yep.
piece, really good. All the chest press movements are really good. We have the incline and the flat that it converges or diverges and then
Yes.
also converges, and it's
Yeah.
like a Smith machine, but it's individual
You know
handles.
what? I think that one's killer. The gym that I'm talking about back home had like the shoulder press version of that. And I was like blown away by it. I was like, oh my God, this is like as sturdy as it's its own rack. But then
Mhm.
there was these other standalone, like there was like a flat and a decline, and they have like the little kickstart. So I like that. I've had pec injuries, like I've talked about, like it gets you out of the hole.
Very nice. Mhm.
But they just felt flimsy to me. And this is years ago. So
I guess I will say with like 5 plates on the flat press, like it gets a
yeah.
little rickety
Yeah,
rackety, but
yeah. Like it
and
almost feels like, man, like I have too many plates on this thing and there's not enough weight to like stabilize the rest of the machine.
yeah, you really
I don't
put
know
like
if
this.
you've ever used the Atlantis chest supported T-bar row where it almost looks like you would sit on it like prone.
Yeah, I
It's the
hate
exact same thing. It's so flimsy, bro. You put 4 or 5 plates on it and start rowing it, and the thing starts rocking all over the place.
the resistance curve of that is just bizarre to me.
Yeah, yeah,
We have that.
yeah,
I don't care for it. So
yeah.
yeah, I guess another another point with your programming is like if you're using Arsenal and you have access to something else, you're fucking up.
Man, that's so funny. There's people that live and die for
Oh,
that brand, and I've publicly like railed on them, like because they get all this high, especially like Flex Lewis was hyping them up. Matt Jansen had
well, yeah,
like
yeah,
access to the
they had ownership in it back in the day.
yeah. Oh, is that what it was? Because they had access to like the
Mhm.
showroom and all this shit, and I'm like, this brand sucks.
Bro, it's fucking like it's like
That they
the
have this one chit, the chest press that I'm talking about, where everyone and their grandmother can put 8 plates aside on it and do it. It's like a upright flat press. It's like, what is the point of this? How is this challenging if everyone can put a leg press amount of weight on this?
that after the V squat, because fuck V squats,
Yeah,
is the shittiest piece of gym equipment I've ever seen in my
hundred
entire
percent
fucking life.
agree. 100% agree. All right, before we get sued, I think this is a good time to go.
I love that we have the same perspective there because yeah, Arsenal shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when you've been in this long enough and you used enough, you know what's real and you know what's not going to last in the long run. So, all right, guys, thanks for all the questions. I appreciate that everyone wrote in and had like, kept the specific topic in mind. Let me know if you guys want to hear more like direct topic content or if you prefer like kind of the random Q&As. I don't know about you. I like doing these. I like kind of if we're focused on one thing, we can talk training. If we're going to talk PEDs, whatever the case is, I kind of like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like
Um,
it.
but yeah, if you guys are listening and you made it this far, let us know in the comments what you think. For Austin Brown, I'm Joseph Percher. Until next week, we are out.